Hi, it's Alyssa from Alyssa's Bake Shop, and this is my first ever YouTube video. I'm a little excited, also nervous, but here we go. I'm gonna show you how I made these bee/honey jar / I love you to the moon and back cookies. The first thing that I do is I take a fondant smoother and I just use that tool to push all of the royal icing down. This way it just helps for it not to come out of the bag. And then I put a rubber band on top as well. I'm going to start with some envelope cookies, and I did not film the cookies going in order because a lot of times when you're creating layers, you need time in between the cookies. As you can see here, I did the bottom part of the envelope, which I let them dry for about 5 minutes, and then I came in and I did the sides. But I decided to just put all of the cookies together so that the video wouldn't be as chaotic. But in reality, I jump back and forth between all of these designs just because stuff has to dry and I don't like to waste time in between, so I just try to work in the best order that I can. Then after the sides dry, I added some of the top of the envelope, and then I added in a heart. I am not sure if I really love how these turned out. This was the first time I made envelopes, and usually when I make something for the first time, it's just kind of experimenting. Because of that, I'm not sure if I liked how big the heart was and how the layers of the envelope were, but I do kind of like the final product. When you see that at the end, maybe I can convince you that they came out a little bit better. However, making these YouTube videos, I really want this not just to be a channel that is telling you how to do something, but also for you guys to grow with me. As a baker, I have been baking cookies since 2016 and selling them. I do also sell to customers now, cakes and other items, but I am always growing and I'm always learning, and I think that is something I want to bring to this channel. It's just a place where we're not judging and we're just gonna learn from each other. I decided I wanted to try dipping them in some white sanding sugar. Didn't really love how that turned out, but that's the thing when I make cookies that are just for fun, or if I have a custom order and I made a lot of extra cookies, then I will sometimes do an extra thing just to see how it turns out, because I'm always curious and I'm always looking to just practice and brush up on another skill. I don't ever give a customer any of those cookies, by the way. Next, I went on to do the beehives, and one thing that I learned that helped a lot when I first started cookies is that you have to let your layers dry. They don't have to be 100% dry. These were about 5 minutes in between because I was going back and forth to other cookies. So I would do a layer, then I would do another cookie. Then I would come back to the beehives and do another layer. It just helps to give it that nice added realism detail. Another thing is that if your icing is starting to sort of flood over a little, you can take the scribe tool and kind of push it back. And this only works, if your icing is not too flooded, but it is something that I like to do. Here I'm just making the little bee trail, or I'm not even sure what you call it. I'm using a Wilton edible food marker. It's not my favorite. Also, if you press down even a little bit too hard and your cookie is not dry, it cracks right into the cookie. So you have to use a really light hand. I decided to add some ruffles on, and I'm definitely going to explore using the leaf tip more in my sugar cookie decorating because I just love how it looks. And then I needed to transfer color, so I just put the bag inside of the bag. I just cut the tip and then put the color into the bag so you don't have to worry about scooping out any color or any mess. Then I put some royal icing on the back of these bee cookies and I just stuck it on to dry, and then I added some cute little hearts just to give it a little bit extra detail, and I really, really like how these came out. I started writing, but my camera didn't record all of the writing, so you'll definitely see it in the end, but I just did the Be Mine saying, which is so cute. Then I went on to doing some shooting stars because I like the saying, I love you to the moon and back, so I decided to just add these in for fun. For these cookies, I really only used a few colors, and personally, that's my favorite way to decorate so many different designs is if you make a cohesive palette with what you're doing. So I use basically white, yellow, this peachy color, which I didn't really know if I liked it at first, but I think as it dried, I liked it a lot better. And then I also use a black/gray color. And I think that when you have palettes that are very cohesive, that it just makes the cookies look so nice when you take a picture of them at the end. So here I'm just piping on some little bitty details, and honestly, if you cut your piping bag tip a lot smaller than what I did, then it's going to be smoother, it's going to be just thinner lines. But sometimes I really like the more like bulky look, and I don't know how to describe it. It's just that when you cut a piping bag tip super small, you're going to get much more thinner, sort of graceful details, and I do love doing that. And as you can see, I did that with these little hearts right here. But overall, sometimes I like this different look. Then I decided I would do the moons next, and I just took some white flooding icing, and then I took some gray icing. The gray icing was not a flood consistency, so these are not perfect. You can see it looks a little bit chunkier, but I just was like going with what I got. I dipped in the top of the cookie. I kind of shook it a little bit in order to get that icing to smooth down. One thing about icing is if there's a lot on the cookie, it's going to eventually smooth down and probably even run off the cookie. So these were not perfect, but this was just some extra thing I had added, and it did cut off the writing again. I'm not sure why the camera does not want to show my writing. But then I decided to go on to the honey jar next. Filled these in, and I just used this more muted yellow. I didn't want anything too bright. I wanted everything to be a little more on the pastel side. After these dried, and these I had drying for about 10 minutes, I came back in and I made the label for where I was going to write honey. Then I had to decide what design to do. I decided to go with a ribbon for the lid. The consistency is not very thick, so although it holds its shape, it is definitely not holding that perfect shape. This is a leaf tip. Next time I will try to make a thicker consistency. I just wanted to be able to use it for other cookies, which is why I made it thinner. Then I go in and I'm going to write honey on it, and I added a little sprinkle just because I thought it would be a nice touch of color. And then I went on to the bees. So for the bees, I put on their little body, and then I put on the black lines. I did not wait for it to dry because I wanted to do the wet on wet technique, and I'm glad because I like how it looked blended. Then I went in again with that leaf tip, and I'm also, you saw I used my right hand, now I'm using my left hand. I'm trying to teach myself to be ambidextrous. I keep, going back and forth between using my left and right. So here are the final cookies, and I really thought that they looked very cohesive. I like how the moons had some grayish blue tones, just so it gave it a little extra something, kind of extra little color. I think that the honey jar and the beehives were my absolute favorite. For the other ones, I might have to go back to the drawing board, but overall, I was happy with them. So I decided to give some as gifts to friends and family, and I just wanted to show you what they look like when they're wrapped up. For this one, this is the one that had the bee cookie attached to it, but then for some of the other ones, I just added an extra little bee cookie in there because it's not very big and it's not going to really crush the other cookie. Thank you guys for watching. I cannot wait to post more videos and to create more content. So here is the first video complete, and on to the next one. Bye.